Governor George Allen from Virginia, welcome back again.
Good to be with you.
Our topic now, federal, state, local taxes. Some localities are going up or raising them, some are lowering them. You have a theory that you have shared with me on occasion that, well, frankly, you believe in lower taxes are truly good for everyone, the citizens, the government, ultimately in the long run, everybody benefits best if taxes are lower. And again, this can be on any level, federal, state, local, as the case may be. But do you believe that tax rates have a bearing on where people choose to live, for example? And
Yes.
if so, your background on that and thoughts
All
on
right.
that.
It's not my background. It's not my personal views. It's fact.
Okay.
The reality.
Even better. Even better.
I mean, it's just look at it. And then, there's a census done every 10 years. In fact, now they're looking at how people are moving year by year. And where are people moving to? They're moving to states where the cost of living is less, where they get to keep more of what they earn. And businesses are looking to be in places where their cost of doing business is less. Businesses are in competition. Taxes and the cost of regulation, whether the income taxes, local taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, machine and tools taxes, unemployment taxes, workers' comp rates, cost of electricity, the cost of fuel, the cost of water. All of these are costs. And so if a business in one state, it costs them less to produce a product than in another state, the state A costs 20% less to operate than in state B, then they're going to be much better off being in state A. And so the great thing about America is that the United States of America is the states are the laboratories of democracy. The states are the laboratories of innovation. The states that have the lower, comparatively or competitively lower taxes, right to work laws where people are not forced to join unions or pay union dues as a condition of work, and where they have relatively lower costs and a skilled, capable workforce from which to draw. Those are the states that are growing. And there are all sorts of rankings. In football, they're talking about the coaches poll and the AP poll and all the rest. Well, the best ranking for what are the best states for business is a publication called Chief Executive. They interview 800 or more chief executives who actually make the site location decisions where they're going to be investing millions, in some cases billions of dollars. And the states that are number one, number two, and number three, consistently year after year, and this rating just came out again, number one for 19 straight years, best state for business, Texas. Number two, Florida. Number three, Tennessee. All three of those states have no state income tax. And number four is most recent is North Carolina. Arizona's number five. I could go through I keep it with me. Arizona's number five, then Indiana, Georgia, South Carolina, Nevada also has no state income tax. Arizona's, by the way, is very low. Utah, Ohio, Virginia is now number 12. It's gone up from 14 to 12. Colorado, Idaho, and South Dakota that also doesn't have a state income tax. South Dakota went way up during the pandemic because they stayed open and didn't shut down businesses, which was the same in places like Tennessee and Texas and Florida and Georgia and Nebraska and Oklahoma and a variety of states. And so people move with their feet and they take their capital with them. There's a publication also called Rich States, Poor States. And it looks at the population movement, throughout our history of our country. People move for the gold rushes or silver strike or for the homesteading and so forth. And that continues. And the states that are the worst states for business, you can guess what they are. The worst year after year: California, New York, Illinois, New Jersey, Oregon, Washington, Massachusetts. Why those are bad states for business. And those states, California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Connecticut, they're losing population. At one time, Connecticut did not have a state income tax, which was just great for all the people who worked in New York and so forth. They moved to, that Greenwich, Connecticut part was a place to live. So I'm not saying that a government can operate and for, especially with the top responsibilities for state, in my view, being education and law enforcement, but you got to raise revenues, and there's a variety of ways of doing it. But if your overall tax burden is too high, you're going to lose people who are going to go to where there's better opportunities, where the cost of living is they get to keep more of what they earn, and businesses have a lower cost of doing business. And it's pretty simple, to be honest with you. And those states, we could learn a lot from Texas and the way that they operate as a state, as well as from these top 10 or top 15 states. And those are the states where there's greater opportunities and people are moving. And we got freedom of movement still in the United States, and we ought to keep it.
You've touched on two things that I think might be interesting in clarifying. States, and I know your state of Virginia is one, with right to work laws. Right to work laws now you clarify this for me, that in no way prohibits unions or union organizing, does it?
No, a right to work law is very simple. It says that no man or woman shall be compelled to pay union dues as a condition of work. If a group wants to organize in a union, they have the right to do so, but they don't have to pay, the workers don't have to pay union dues. The states when I was governor, the number one claim on my time was jobs and trying to get more investment or expansion of job opportunities in Virginia. And the first words out of my mouth were, Virginia's the furthest state north on the eastern seaboard with a right to work law. And the states to the north of us that didn't have right to work laws, they weren't even on the field of competition to lose. Our competition were the Carolinas and Tennessee and Georgia and Florida, maybe once in a while Texas, but mostly the states to the southeast of us. And those are the states you can compete with. And if you don't have a right to work law, even unionized businesses, and some of the businesses were unionized, but it makes the union actually have to earn the support of the workers rather than a closed shop approach where if it's unionized, you have to pay union dues and the union gets that money no matter whether they do a good job for the workers or not. And so it actually improves labor management relationships. And it also, a right to work law, makes sure the union is earning the dues that they're collecting from their members.
Well, the reason I was smiling particularly is you actually, by osmosis, something caught my second question, which is, in your time as governor, what was, because you are the ambassador for the state and to bring in business and jobs. And so your number one thing was, it was a right to work state.
Well, yeah, that was just the first thing.
That's a pitch to other businesses, yes.
Well, they cared. I mean, businesses cared about a workforce. They cared about prompt permitting. Some of them needed, some businesses needed water. Some of them, needed railroad sidings, and they cared about the cost of taxes and unemployment insurance and workers' comp rates and litigation, the affordability and reliability of electricity. All that mattered. What set Virginia apart is that if you think of the population of the country, 2/3 of it is really east of the Mississippi. And Virginia is just very blessed to be right in the middle of the eastern seaboard. We're blessed with a great port, and we wanted to improve all the rail out of our ports of Virginia, as well as the roads and so forth. So if there would be businesses, for example, that would want warehouses or distribution centers, and they'd be along Interstate 81 in the Shenandoah Valley, or even in the Richmond area, but they could service Pennsylvania, Maryland, New Jersey, and those states out of Virginia, and they're in a right to work state, but also then provide those services or transport the goods to these non-right to work closed shop union states for it. So that was distinguishing Virginia, that you're closer to a lot of their customers. the potential customers in the Northeast, but you're in a right to work state. Whereas Florida, if the governor of Florida says we're a right to work state, I'll say, well, yeah, great, wonderful. But Florida's not they're not a crossroads state. Like Maine is not a crossroads state. Nor, Florida, there it ends. So Virginia, that's a big attribute. But what mattered most is, generally speaking, the cost of business, a business friendly climate in Virginia. In fact, what I would do when we'd get a company to come into Virginia, this is kind of an extraneous historical aspect, but Virginia was founded as the first permanent English settlement, Jamestown. It was founded not for religious freedom, like the Pilgrims who came 13 years later up to Plymouth Rock and burned witches and all that kind of stuff. Virginia was a commercial venture, and it was called the Virginia Company, the London Company. And so we'd get a replica of the share of the Virginia Company, with a red wax stamp on it and saying, thank you for your investment in Virginia. Thank you for it. This is a share in Virginia, and this is our obligation in Virginia to make sure your business can compete and thrive in our state. And we wish you all the best. And so many of those businesses would frame that share of stock in the Virginia Company. So I look at people who create jobs as wonderful folks that improve people's lives, and obviously it's a tremendous positive impact on the communities in which they invest and create those jobs and that vitality.
That's an interesting bit of salesmanship anecdote there, and I thank you for that
Yeah,
one.
but I tell
very,
folks,
very
I said, everyone thinks Virginia is great, but I was telling you, well, we're number 12, and there's a lot of states much higher, and people in Southwest Virginia see the big difference between Tennessee versus Virginia with no state income tax. I was talking to one lady in Upper East Tennessee who had moved from Virginia to Tennessee, and she said, the sales taxes in Tennessee are higher than the sales taxes in Virginia. Ideally, you work and live in Tennessee and go across the line and shop in Virginia, where the sales taxes are less. But this one lady, she said, the sales taxes are higher, but in Virginia, you have to pay this income tax. On the sales taxes, I actually can control whether I'm going to be paying those taxes by, do I really want to buy something? Mm-hmm. And so there's more of that personal autonomy in a state that, well, they don't just take the money out just because you've earned it. You make a decision of your personal decision. All right, well, if I'm going to buy something, instead of paying, say, 5% sales tax in Virginia, in Tennessee, it's 8%. It's going to cost more, but it's my decision as opposed to the government just taking it out. And I think you're going to see more and more states, Sam, looking to go towards no income tax, because those no income tax states, Tennessee, Florida, Texas, South Dakota, Wyoming, Nevada, Washington State, and Alaska, and have none. And Alaska is so much determined by the price of oil, but you're seeing states like North Carolina is cutting their taxes significantly, and so is Arizona to compete, and they're getting tons of people and businesses from California, as is Nevada. And so these lower tax states are the states where people are migrating to, because they realize there's more prosperity, more opportunity, and they get to keep more of what they worked to earn.
We can close this segment with, I guess, a belief that people vote with their wallet or purse, and they're going to head where they can keep as much in that wallet or purse as possible.
Sure.
Fair statement.
Capital moves. And these states that put in these taxes, these higher taxes, and I understand that the political panache or attractiveness, or we're going to tax these millionaires, and I understand that class warfare stuff. But what happens is the millionaires leave, and the number of people that have left New York and California, the loss And they end up with less revenue because people say in California move to Nevada, where they have lower, no state income tax, or New York. A lot of them move to Florida with it, and so they lose those people and any sort of revenue from it. So it's, people are going to move to where they can keep more of what they earn. It's not that. I think a fourth grader would understand that. Say, gosh, you want to buy some chewing gum somewhere? All right, this place that costs $1, this place that costs 75 cents. They're going to go to the place where it's 75 cents. I mean, it's not that hard to figure out. But some in government don't understand that freedom of movement and freedom to move where you want and bring your money with it. In fact, in Nevada, the interesting thing, that's another object lesson. For throughout history, Reno always advertised itself as the biggest little city, and it was the second biggest city, much smaller than Las Vegas. Now the second biggest municipality in Nevada is a place called Henderson, and 62% of the people in Henderson lived in California before they moved to Henderson. Henderson's near Las Vegas in southern Nevada, Clark County. So, and all they got to do is live there for half the year plus 1 day. And there's a lot of people who live half the year plus 1 day in Arizona, Nevada, Florida, and those states. And then the entertainers, especially if they're musicians, if you have a choice of being in Hollywood and paying 13.3% income taxes versus being in Nashville, Music City, paying 0 state income tax, there's a lot of those folks, those entertainers, especially musicians, who have moved to Tennessee out of California because they get to keep 13.3% more of their money.
Well, as you said, people can vote with their feet, they can move their capital, and they want to keep their capital.
Yeah. The other fun one is Tiger Woods versus Phil Mickelson. And Phil Mickelson realized how many tens of millions of dollars he was paid in taxes to California, and how much smarter Tiger Woods was being a resident of Florida and paying 0 state income taxes.
I believe Ben Franklin did say money saved was money earned, wasn't it? Something like that.
Penny saves a penny earned, or
and something along that line with it, close enough. Again, as always, good insight. Governor Allen, thank you so very much.
Pleasure.